I'm Ted Clay, a business journalist of SBC News, and today I'm joined by Andy Clerkson from Voxbet. So starting off with the US, that's obviously been a really big focus for a lot of the betting industry lately. In the post-PASPA era, how much is this market a high priority for Voxbet?
It's interesting, it's a big market at some point for us, but it's not actually our priority, and there's quite a good reason for that, which is the US has created a kind of patchwork of states that are very heavily geolocated, and our technology is very simple to place a bet, but it's quite difficult if you are trying to do that across state lines. So we have got some conversations with US companies, because they're obviously going to move forward over the next few years and regulations will change. But at the moment, we're really focused on Europe, Africa and Australia, where the technology can be more easily integrated. One of the pieces that works with Voxbet particularly well is you could be in-app, and that can work in America. So if you want to speak a bet, you can tap the app and speak that bet. But it also works really well on media. So you would see a piece of information, read an article, and you could place a bet directly from the media. And that's where the geolocation in America at the moment is quite tricky, but you can do that pretty much anywhere else in the world.
So staying on the US, it's obviously a vast country. You've just mentioned the state lines. How can firms differentiate themselves from the competition across such a wide market?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that we've noticed in the US is that nearly all of the apps have taken the European design model, which means the European navigation model, which is kind of probably to get out quickly and to save on technology time. They've kind of taken what we've known here in Europe for many years. At Voxbet, we don't think that that's the best way to navigate anymore. You know, we see in travel and we see in retail that people navigate their websites differently to the age-old kind of, the old Yahoo way, where you look through menus and then sub-menus and you click 7 times to find the thing you're looking for. And that's the piece that we're trying to solve for, because we think you can directly say your bet into an app and that will then place that bet for you, give you a confirmation. So we think with the US, it's an interesting opportunity because they haven't actually developed the apps any more than we have. You would have thought maybe a new market, the kind of breadth of technology experience in the US, that they would have developed a different kind of way for bettors to place bets. But they haven't, so there's a big opportunity still there. There's a huge market, but I don't think they've advanced the market in terms of technology yet.
Yeah, it's still very in the early stages, isn't it? It's certainly compared to Europe. So more generally, what would you say is Voxbet's main USP?
Well, the main USP is we think that we are the fastest way that you can, from when you think about a bet, that you can place a bet. So literally, we came from a text betting technology. So you could just type in a bet using some of the more popular messaging apps like Facebook Messenger or Viber or Telegram, not available on WhatsApp. But we've taken that technology, which allows us to understand what's typed about a bet. So literally I could say £10 on Arsenal, Man United and Liverpool, and that will instantly recognise that that's a treble bet on those 3 teams and be able to present me back with a message that says, is this your bet? Place that bet. We've taken that one step further in the last 6 months with our development team and have turned that into a way that you can speak your bet. So using pretty much standard voice technology, but using our own lexicon or dictionary of betting terms. So our USP is we think we are the fastest way to place a bet. What we need to be able to do is integrate that piece into a sportsbook app. So if you can imagine any of the popular sportsbook apps, instead of navigating through to place a bet, you would just hit a microphone button, say it, and either that will speak that bet back to you or you'll see that in a message and you can place. So from thinking of a bet to placing it should be around 5 seconds, as opposed to currently potentially thinking of a bet and then having to go through the menu options and looking through a load of markets that you probably don't want to get to the thing that you were looking for in the first place. So that's the real key. There are many benefits beyond that kind of speed of placement. One of them being, we all know as well that people don't necessarily go to a sports betting app with the thought, I'm going to place a bet, so let me fire up Bet365 or Sky Bet. They might well be watching the TV. They might be reading one of their favourite newspapers, and then they'll be thinking, oh, actually, that's a good idea. I'd like to bet on that horse. Well, then instead of going straight over to one of the apps, you would be able to hit the button potentially directly from the media site, or if you're listening, you could do it from a Alexa or a Siri activated device and just say the bet straight in. And we think that that's going to be a real game changer for any of the sports books, because you can cut out a huge process between thought of bet, thinking of bet, and placing bet.
So building on that, how does Voxbet plan to sort of utilise its technology to engage with every generation of bettor? And also, do you have a particular target audience?
Every bettor or punter would benefit from this speed of bet placement. But obviously we're looking at a youthful demographic. We've already seen major shifts in the way that people use apps. Voice notes now is massive on WhatsApp rather than text typing. As I say, travel, Google Maps people speak to while they're walking, and we see that obviously in a much younger demographic. And Google is seeing that anybody under 35 now has used consistently voice-activated apps. The trick to these, we think, is that they have to be accurate straight away. So a few years ago, when people were talking to their apps, they maybe were not getting the best results. And if you don't get the best results straight away, you give up quite quickly. So that's why Voxbet has very considered and focused its technology around betting terminology, so that we understand the difference between Chelsea Boy as a horse and Chelsea the football team, or Chelsea as a hotel, or Chelsea as a part of London, whatever it may be. The older generation of bettors, and I'll put myself in that, will still benefit from this, but there's always going to be this movement where we need to entice youth in, and I think it will be funny in the future for anyone now who's 21 or people who are even 15, but in 10 years' time will look back and see the way that their dads were operating on phones with fat thumbs, trying to navigate these things again, when they could just speak. So we think that although everyone will benefit immediately, it's probably going to be a more youthful demographic. The other thing we think is that the sports books that embrace the new technologies, and obviously this isn't going to replace the usual navigation, but the sports books that embrace those new technologies will have a definite marketing product benefit earlier than if they don't. We see a lot of, you mentioned America earlier, and there we see a humongous brand fight. So people are spending hundreds of millions of dollars out branding each other. That's a very expensive way to do marketing in the hope that someone remembers your name and likes it. If you actually have a killer app, a piece of technology that people instantly get the utility and will then tell other friends or use that in a way, then you've instantly cut your marketing costs as well. So yeah, we think it's something squarely aimed at 21 to 35 at the moment, but if the old guys can get their heads around it, I'm sure they will.
And moving forward, how do you see the company expanding in the future? Like, is Voxbet targeting any particular markets?
Yep, definitely at the moment we're targeting markets, emerging markets, so LATAM, and so we can do all of this technology, by the way, in other languages, in Spanish, which is the second language that we'll be using, and we're seeing a lot of growth in LATAM regulation at the moment, so more countries are legalising betting, and we think there they haven't got the baggage so much, as I mentioned before as well, of these old sports books. So there might be some products that can come out that can actually get away with can get rid of the old navigation, and people will take those risks. We're looking at Africa, Australia, which has a very mature, as we know, sports betting market, but also a big horse racing market. And this app Voxbet has proved to be very successful in France and in the UK with the Tote and PMU in France with horse racing bets. It's very easy for horse racing punters who usually know, they've done their research, they know the horses they want to put on, and it's very easy for them to get those bets on. And we see a tremendous uplift in the amount of bets placed through Voxbet per individuals. We were seeing in France over 160 bets per month per customer using this app, because once people had got used to it, they didn't have to go back into that old navigation. They did their research, they knew their horses, and they can instantly place the bet in a few seconds. So we see those markets where there's, at the moment, huge market in horse racing, very good, or also emerging markets which haven't really developed these kind of older apps yet. And as we said earlier as well, obviously, in America, we'll take this up, we think, once their regulation allows a little more of a diverse way to maybe cross-state between apps, which will be a little easier. The thing we do know very well in America is it's a huge driving culture still, and a lot of people are listening to the radio. Sports radio is huge, and again, hands-free. You're driving down the highway, you're about to listen to the baseball game, you hear some, potentially there's an offer from one of the big guys. What do you want to do? I want to place that bet. You're not going to pull over your car, start doing this with your phone, you'll get arrested. If you were able to initiate the Voxbet from your car voice messaging, you could place that bet whilst driving.
And lastly, what would you say is the main benefit of attending Betting on Sports Europe? Why do you think it's important to attend events like this?
Well, one, it's great for the industry to be back together and be able to see people that we haven't been able to see. I think we're all completely fed up of Zoom calls. Suggest most people probably turn their camera off these days if they can do that, because it's been so intrusive. So I think to be able to come to any event, and the SBC events have been great. Since the last year, of being able to come back out of hiding. Just to kind of meet people again and do the business that we need to do. I mean, our job at Voxbet is to get our message out and to talk to as many operators and media affiliates as possible, and this is a great place to meet old friends and see new ones.
Fantastic, thank you very much.